Stuckey, out of his own mouth, said that he considered Big Meats to be one of his best friends. T Stuck, the PA Boys, and the Black Mafia family's close ties were even depicted in the BMF series on Starz, produced by 50 Cent. Being on the lam, T had the feds executing several search warrants on the homes and businesses of all of his known associates within the Detroit area while on the hunt for him, including that of his music business partner E-Dub. T. Stuckey's luck would run out when he would be apprehended in or around an apartment at 3350 Sweetwater Road in Lawrenceville, Georgia, on September 6, 2002. He would be charged with numerous offenses after being on the run 1 day shy of 6 months. On January 23, 2003, 4 months after being taken into custody on gun charges and a fugitive warrant, a grand jury returned a 8-count superseding indictment that named Stuckey, Dennis Sifford, and Vidal Murray as co-conspirators. Count 1 charged all 3 defendants with conspiring to distribute cocaine and cocaine base in violation of 21 U.S.C. 841 and 846, with this alleged conspiracy spanning from sometime in 1993 to February 9, 2000. Stuckey would hire Jerome Barney, the lawyer who represented him in the 1997 case. Barney, however, had to recuse himself as counsel after a witness accused him of receiving $50,000 from Stuckey. I'm going to assume that they alleged the 50 must have been used for some type of payoff, because the feds would actually allege that Stuckey was involved in witness intimidation before his trial would begin, because the last time I checked, you were supposed to pay your lawyers. But anyway, with Jerome Barney stepping down from the case, Stuck would hire another prominent Michigan attorney named Anthony Chambers. On November 18, 2003, Stuckey's new lawyers, Anthony Chambers and Jeffrey Taylor, filed a motion to suppress evidence obtained from the apartment at 3350 Sweetwater Road, Unit 609 in Lawrenceville, Georgia, but to no avail, and T. Stuckey would begin trial in 2004. According to another attorney, S. Allen Early, the government would tell the judge that Stuckey had put a hit on the mother of the star witness in the case, which prevented him from seeing evidence within his discovery so that he could aid in his defense. The prosecution would initially seek the death penalty against Stuckey for the murder of Ricardo Slick Darbins, who was a former Detroit police officer who was fired after he and another officer forced a drug dealer to eat crack cocaine in 1988. The dealer overdosed but survived. Darbins had been indicted in federal court for several crimes unrelated to Stuckey. The theory is that T killed Darbins because he believed Darbins would rat him out for a time cut on the charges that he was facing. Darbins himself was accused of the attempted murder of an informant on his own case. So Stuckey's position is, if a dude is willing to go to that length for the code, why would he have any reason to fear that Darbins would provide any information on him, whether true or false? Therefore, there's no reason he would have felt the need to silence Darbins, especially when the government would accuse T of being the driver of the car when Darbin tried to kill the witness on his case at either a barbershop or record store. To make the charges stick even more, the federal government would cut a deal with a man named Steve Felder, an admitted murderer, in exchange for testifying against T. Stuckey. Now this is where shit gets messy on the prosecution's end, and you start to understand just how badly they wanted T. Stuckey off the streets. Stuckey's attorney, Anthony Chambers, would represent a man named Anthony Gates, who was charged with a murder where they alleged he killed the man, duct taped him, rolled him up in a rug, and left him in the trunk of a car. After about 3 weeks of trial, Gates was found not guilty. This all matters because the victim in the Anthony Gates case was found the same way Ricardo Slick Darbins would be found. Steve Felder would actually admit on the stand at Stuckey's trial that he committed the murder Anthony Gates was previously charged with. Now to sum that up, Steve Felder is the star witness in the Darbins murder case that Stuck is fighting, and pretty much confesses to a murder that was committed in the same fashion as the one that Stuckey was being charged with. And we know this because Anthony Gates was represented by Anthony Chambers, who's representing Stuckey in the case that we're talking about now. Y'all follow me? Alright, let's keep mobbing. Stuckey was also labeled the head of the Puritan Avenue Boys, and while awaiting his own trial, another indictment would be dropped on the PA Boys. An informant alleged that he was serving Stuckey bricks from 1988 to 1992. The problem with that is, Stuck was in prison, as we discussed earlier, from 88 to 92 on second-degree murder charges before having them overturned. With all of this contradictory evidence, Stuckey, as well as his attorney, Anthony Chambers, felt they had the murder case beaten and were on a good road to either winning the drug case or lowering the charges and subsequently the penalty. The prosecution would make one last desperate attempt to convict Stuckey by introducing his rap lyrics into evidence. They would claim that Stuckey described the murder in detail in one of his songs where he rapped, "I never been scared of you, stay one step ahead of you, kill your witnesses instead of you, I expose those who knows, fill their bodies with holes, wrap them in the blanket, dump their bodies in the road." The defense, however, would argue that Stuckey didn't write at least 80% of his lyrics. In turn, Assistant U.S. Attorney J. Michael Buckley would be quoted saying, "The evidence at trial proved that Mr. Stuckey was not involved in the music business at all. He was not a musician." Feeling like his lawyer's hands were tied, Stuckey would decide to bet on himself and take the stand in his own defense, despite his counsel advising against it because the prosecution would introduce various crimes Stuckey was accused of committing, further tainting his image in front of the jury. On July 22, 2004, a jury convicted Stuckey on 6 counts: conspiracy to distribute cocaine and cocaine base, murder to prevent a person from providing information concerning a federal crime to federal authorities, conspiracy to launder monetary instruments, felon in possession of a firearm, witness tampering, and laundering of financial instruments. The court then sentenced Stuckey for each offense as follows: a term of life imprisonment for conspiracy to distribute cocaine and cocaine base, mandatory life imprisonment for murder of a government witness, 240 months for both of his laundering related offenses, 120 months for felon in possession of a firearm, and another 120 months for witness tampering. All of Stuckey's sentences were to be served concurrently. Upon sentencing, when T would address the court, he would maintain his innocence, stating, "I'm going to rely on the appeals court and the Lord to look out for me." Stuckey told U.S. District Judge Gerald Rosen, "You set me up. You all in this room set me up. I'm an innocent man." Judge Gerald Rosen, however, would be quoted in an article saying that T. Stuckey convicted himself with his own testimony. "It was one of the greatest acts of self-destruction I've witnessed in a courtroom in 25 years, the judge said. That same year T. Stuckey would receive a life sentence. His longtime friend and former groupmate, Proof, would release his debut album, I Missed the Hip Hop Shot. His second album, Searching for Jerry Garcia, was released a year later in 2005. It rose to number 65 on the Billboard 200 charts. But that same year, another friend of Stuckey's, Demetrius Big Meats Flannery, would be picked up on an indictment for running a continuing criminal enterprise along with his brother, Terry Southwest T. Flannery, who was recently granted clemency from former President Joe Biden. On April 11, 2006, when Stuckey was about 4 years into his life sentence, his friend Proof was shot and killed at a Detroit club located on the city's famed 8 Mile. On December 17, 2010, Stuckey released a book titled Bloody Pollock, a creative testament to his resolve and resilience behind the wall. Y'all can actually purchase the book on Amazon and support the brony.